Welcome back to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. We're in Beirut, and we're continuing our interview with Fawaz Traboulsi. He's an associate professor of political science and history at Lebanese American University in Beirut, and author of A History of Modern Lebanon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, pick up. Israel has withdrawn. Hezbollah now is in control of southern Lebanon. Now, Hezbollah, in their original charter, had as a stated objective to establish an Islamic State in Lebanon, but then they changed their position and decided to accept the confessional system.
In all fairness, they do not. I mean, they said that they will only establish an Islamic government if all the constituents of Lebanon would agree to it. At times, they use the example: 90% of the Lebanese, if the 90% of the Lebanese accept, on the assumption that Islam says that there is no compulsion in religion. So once you know that the Lebanese Christians would make some 38 to 40% and that the Druses are not necessarily in favor of an Islamic State, not to speak of Sunnis. So the idea is that they do not press that point, but they change their slogan from the party of the Islamic Revolution in Lebanon to the party of the Islamic resistance in Lebanon. Now, more importantly, is that now the party becomes part of the parliament. The party now joins elections and has his first MPs in parliament. Even before the year 2000, while continuing struggle against Israel, the party now has a political branch which is mainly working in internal politics. In addition to this, the party is a huge social, educational, cultural institution. It has a huge construction organization called Jihad al-Bina, which has some 1,500 engineers, architects, that is devoted to rebuilding damages by Israeli artillery and airplanes during the successive wars. They have their own schools. They have their own charitable organizations.
So we're talking about the period between 2000 and 2006, essentially.
Yeah, but even those institutions existed before, but now they're much more developed.
And what's the relationship between Hezbollah, which is mostly Shia, and the elite, essentially Christian Sunni elite?
Well, Hezbollah, like all the Lebanese sects, I mean, there's nothing new. The Lebanese sects are in themselves social, cultural, educational organizations. So what Hezbollah is doing is what Catholic school do, what the Sunnis do, what the Druze do. There's nothing.
But I'm talking about the section that controls the banking system here and much of the rest of the economy, these families. What's their relationship to Hezbollah?
Those families have changed radically. The war and emigration have added layers to the Lebanese bourgeoisie, which has become less and less Christian dominated. Actually, one of the interesting things about Amal and Hezbollah is that it represented middle class, intellectual, and bourgeois Shiites who are groping for their place in society. They have their place in the economy. So you're talking about a rather secular, multi-sectarian ruling economic class, if you want, business class, capitalist class. Hezbollah is the last arrival, the last armed sect to join the Lebanese system. Now Hezbollah becomes part of that system of power sharing between the religious sects.
But a very specific section of it, because they keep their own arms.
Yep, which raises a big question for others, namely under two pretexts. The open pretext is how can we have a state which does not have the monopoly of violence, using Weber, etc. And the implied thing is that a non-state actor now controls the decisions of war and peace. The other covert reason is that Hezbollah, armed representative of the Shiite community, is dwarfing all the other communities because of its, not only of its arms, but because of its fighting against Israel, because of its victories over Israel, because of its financial possibilities, and because of its arms, which were never used until very late in 2008 in internal politics. But this newcomer makes trouble until Christian power is waning and Sunni power has taken over, especially through the strong personality and the wealth of Prime Minister Hariri, who was assassinated in the year 2005. But the more important thing is that there is fear that the rise of Hezbollah with its arms is adding power to the biggest, numerically biggest sect in Lebanon, who are the Shiites. So for the first time, if you want, you have competition, not to speak of conflict, between Sunnis and Shiites concerning the executive.
Now, many people have talked about Lebanon with its domestic politics is also proxy politics. And to what extent does the Saudi-Iranian competition or conflict start to reflect itself here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from the mid-2000, 2003, 4, but mainly after 2005 and the assassination of Prime Minister Hariri, the country is severely split into two camps. One is a camp with a majority of Shiites, a newcomer Christian ally, which is General Aoun and his party. And that's called the 8th of March Alliance, closer to Syria, Iran, versus a more pro-Western, pro-Saudi alliance, which has the majority of the Sunnis under the son of the late Hariri, practically the majority of the Druze with Walid Jumblat, and another half of the Christians. So it's not exactly a Christian-Muslim split, which is not, and it's a complex split, but at least the majority of the Shiites are in one camp, the majorities of the Sunnis are in another camp.
It more reflects the geopolitical split than a Christian-Muslim split.
Definitely, with one contentious issue, which is the arms of Hezbollah. The other issue is a tension in the region between the United States on the one hand, Iran and its allies against Iran and Syria.
In the next segment of the interview, let's talk about why Israel attacks Hezbollah in Lebanon in 2006. Please join us for the next segment of our interview with Fawaz Traboulsi.